Courageous Doctors is a newscast about healthcare topics of concern to everyone. From health and safety tips, to recall notices and medical news. Here's your host, Dr. Barry Prystowsky.
Hello, and welcome to Courageous Doctors, the news show for you and your doctor. On the show today, we're going to talk about updates on coronavirus, government updates with Obamacare, other health concerning issues, and finally, health and safety issues. Let's get started. All right, let's review what's happened. Right now with COVID, we're coming to the end of the second peak, and it's been really a very bad year. In the United States, we've had, as you know, over 500,000 deaths. And even now, towards the end of the second peak, we're still getting between 1,500 and 3,500 people dying per day. At one point, we had over 5,000 dying. That's nationwide. So, it's getting better, but the rate of transmission is less than 1. It's 0.86, which means less than one person giving it to another. So it's coming down. And in New Jersey, our hospital rates never went up to what they were last year at this time. They've always remained, even through the second peak, about half of what they were. So we've been in better shape in New Jersey, but it's still been pretty rough. In fact, in New Jersey, we're still getting 50 people a day that die. And we've had 23,000 deaths in New Jersey. And we've had over 700,000 cases, so it's been pretty bad. One other thing we're beginning to see is we're beginning to see a rise in multi-inflammatory syndrome in children. That's where, remember we always said all year, and I still tell all my patients, that when the kids get it, it's usually mild, especially if they're less than 10. But the older children can get the same disease adults get, with blood clots, stroke-like symptoms, heart arrhythmias, heart inflammation, organ involvement. And in fact, we have over 2,000 of children sick like that in the country, and even 30 that died. So although it was very rare and you saw very little of it a year ago when I began to report this with you, we're seeing a little more now, but we still have to be on the lookout. So I always tell all my patients, I'm a pediatrician, I always say, look, if you see in the children that you have signs of bleeding or vasculitis, like purple red toes, crusting eyes, crusting around the mouth, very sick child that we had one patient that came in just with abdominal pain, nothing, no rash, no crusting, no shortness of breath, had high fevers for over a week, abdominal pain, and finally ended up in the intensive care unit in St. Barnabas and had an arrhythmia and is still being followed up for that. So you just don't know how these things are going to come in. So the one good thing is that we're seeing that the deaths in nursing homes have gone down quite a bit, down 80% according to the New York Times. If you look at the graphs nationwide and certainly in Jersey as well, you'll see that even though most of the elderly had protected themselves, myself included, being careful with masks and having as little exposure as possible, even though I'm here in the office. So the death rate was going down after the first spike a year ago right here in Jersey. Still overall on the graph, even with the second spike around the country, because around the country saw it a lot worse than Jersey in this second spike. You see that most of the deaths have been in the elderly, just like we were seeing a year ago. So, and next to the elderly in the 50s and 60s, and then it drops way down. So the fact that the death rate is, again, we're still seeing, 2,000 or 3,000 people a day dying. So, and they're not all elderly. So we're not out of the woods, but at least that's some good news. All right, let's talk a little about vaccines. Let's start here in Jersey. We're excited that J&J, Johnson & Johnson, is finally releasing their one-shot vaccine, and that's a good thing. I've been myself volunteering in one of the Essex County vaccination sites, either vaccinating or monitoring, And in each of these sites, we're moving about 1,000 people a day. It's very well organized. The county health does an excellent job. Great follow-up. Of course, people have to come back a month later for the Moderna or Pfizer, and with the Johnson & Johnson, it's just one shot. But I know it's taken a long time, but these guys are really doing a yeoman's job. I can say it because I've been there. I've seen their work. Very proud of the work public health is doing. So if you think about it, we have 9 million people in Jersey, but only about 4 or 5 million are adults that are going to get the vaccine because the children still aren't allowed. Remember, this was a very fast researched vaccine that went through in less than a year, so it didn't have time to study the children. I think we'll be able to get, the teenagers, 16 or 18, but the younger teens maybe by the fall, and we're being told that the elementary school kids by around this time next year. So a lot of us pediatricians took courses with the state. We're certified and ready to get these vaccines, but it's going to be delayed for pediatricians. But we're moving really fast. I mean, we have 2 million people vaccinated already in Jersey, so we're already halfway there. So I think we're doing a good job. I think the country as a whole, they said, probably won't get herd immunity until closer to the fall. Maybe some of the states aren't doing as well as us, but let's see. And again, the Johnson & Johnson is easier to store. It doesn't have to be in the freezer. It can be in the fridge and stay longer, and it won't go bad in 6 hours once you open it. And so it does have advantages. Now, in terms of the allergic reactions we were seeing with the Moderna and Pfizer, they're very rare. Like one is 2.5 out of a million, the other is 11 out of a million. They think that was due to one of the chemicals, polyethylene glycol. And again, it's very rare. I mean, that's the same chemical that's in laxatives like Miralax. It's in a lot of stuff. PEG is in a lot of stuff. Very rare allergic reaction. But it was scary to see those few people reported on TV and in the news. I mean, we were all scared. But, they all did very well after the EpiPen, and they just never got another shot with it. But it's very rare. So overall, we've had very good, vaccine success rate. Now, of course, the variants are always a question. And even with the new Johnson & Johnson shot, the efficacy is not as good, 60, 70%. But, the flu shot we get every year has always been 60 or 70% or less. But it's good enough to keep you out of the hospital, to keep you from dying, and so the Johnson & Johnson will be the same. How well any of these shots really do against the variants. The variants are just like, remember every year we get a different flu strain. So the shot's only as good as the strains that are put into it. So if the government calls it right and makes shots that have the correct strains, then we've got a really good flu shot. If they hit it wrong and get the wrong strains, we got a horrible shot, or at least a 50% shot. So just like that, the government's telling us, as these new variants, like the UK variant that's here now, the California variant, this, of course, South African and Brazil, as these other different types, just like the flu, coronavirus is a flu, as these different variants come in, they're just going to add them to the shot. I mean, right now, Pfizer and Moderna is thinking about making a booster that will have these shots in it. We may all get it again. I had my 2 shots. I may get a booster in the fall, just like I get my flu shot in the fall. If it has the variant, I'll of course get a booster. Let's see. Let's move on to talk about antibodies. We know that there's been some good studies. The New England Journal reported, and the National Cancer Institute looked at the antibodies lasting at least 6 months. See, here's the thing. I can tell you personally, my antibodies lasted at least 9 months, probably longer. I just didn't redraw my blood after that because I was vaccinated. I mean, look at it. Anybody, when you get sick, when you get a vaccine, anything, you don't keep high antibody levels all the time. What you do is you form memory cells, and the memory T regulator cells, it's a type of white cell, a type of lymphocyte. It remembers how to make the antibody. So when you get re-exposed, it makes more antibodies. Okay, you get it? It causes more antibodies to be made. I don't have to go into details. So when you just measure antibody levels, that's not necessarily the right thing. You have to measure not only a baseline of antibodies, but you have to measure that are there memory cells there. So ordinarily, like if I get titers on somebody for college and they want to see how much measles or chickenpox or whatever shot is in them, they have to maintain a certain titer level, but I know they have memory cells. So, but now because this is a new shot, and we don't really have titer levels yet, now they're just looking at whether the antibodies are there or not. And of course, you'll always need a certain baseline of antibody. But what you really want to do, since this is a new shot, is see if you have memory cells. So some of the more sophisticated labs, like at Mount Sinai in New York and some others, and here the Cancer Institute, and they've looked to see if the memory cells are there. And that's how they know, they guess these titers really are working. So I think that if you have the disease, if you have the shot, I think your titers are good. Think of it like a flu, but it may not be good a year from now, but it's certainly good for now. Let's see. But of course, Dr. Fauci, I saw him on TV many times, and, he clearly stated that we can still get the vaccine. We don't know now that once we have titers, like I had COVID and I had 2 shots, so I know I have titers. But let's say Dr. Fauci said from the National Institute of Health, if I'm exposed to somebody, will I have live virus in my nose? Even though I won't get sick, can I sneeze it on somebody else? He said, even though I'm protected, he said, we don't know that yet. Therefore, I should wear a mask to protect everybody. He said, we just don't know that yet. So, but I think eventually it's going to be just like the flu. You're protected, you're protected. Let's see, anything else interesting? Oh, yeah. NPR did a study that mentioned the Rutgers study, saying that wiping surfaces is not as helpful. We're all going crazy wiping surfaces. I do it myself by alcohol, everything. But they said wearing a mask and washing hands actually had better results. So, that's nice to know if all of us worried about wiping everything. And let's see. Oh, this was 2 more important things about antibodies. The plasma studies, remember a year ago, Hackensack and some others were working, Claremont, where I am, a local hospital, Hackensack in New Jersey. A good friend of mine was doing the study in Hackensack, in Claremont, coordinating it with the Mayo Clinic, and Hackensack had their own studies going. What they found from all of that is that if you're in the hospital and you need to get the antibodies quickly before you get sick, the reason why is the drug we use to kill the virus in the hospital, remdesivir, it's not perfect. And if it doesn't kill it fast enough and you have a high inflammatory response trying to help the drug kill the disease, you're going to end up having the the side effects of the disease due to our own body trying to kill the virus, where we're clotting blood vessels and strokes and kidneys and all sort of stuff.
Don't go away, there's more courageous doctors after these messages.
Hi, I'm Ingrid Burke.
And I'm Gina Unger.
Gina has known Dr. Berry in a professional and personal capacity for many years, and we are thrilled to be in his building. We are psychotherapists, and we offer mental health counseling for ages 12 and up. We do individual, couples, and family counseling. We're also excited to say that we have groups that we have for teenage boys and girls, for social skills, anger management, and self-esteem building. If you need to reach us,
check us out at lifeworksnj.com.
Our phone numbers are also listed on that website if you'd like to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Waxed-In is a full-body unisex studio. We specialize in hard wax, which is gentler on the skin. We do all types of waxing from head to toe. You can come in with your friends, so you have the moral support. We have hors d'oeuvres. You do have to have a minimum of 8 people for that party, and you would schedule that. Everybody's looking for a hand to hold and then someone to share the experience with, so you can look that up on our website. We have prenatal waxing. We take a little bit more time with the new moms, and a lot of people will schedule that once they hit their second trimester. We do have a waxing membership. It's set up just like a gym membership, and you come in just like you would go to the gym. It comes out automatically, and you just show up for your wax. We have several memberships, For different services, we also have wax packages. The phone number is 973-542-8442. The website is www.thewaxden.com. We have 24-hour online booking.
Come to the Wax Den. We wax it all.
Courageous Doctors continues with Dr. Barry Prystowsky.
You want to get the antibodies in as quickly as possible. Now, for the antibody injection, like the one you saw President Trump got last year, the hospitals have that, and I've been told by people in the emergency rooms, the reason why they're not being used as much is, first of all, there's a strict criteria. Not everybody is eligible. So just because you have positive COVID doesn't mean the emergency room is going to inject this antibody in you to save your life. You have to be a high-risk person, either older or have a major disease. Also, the reason why it's not being moved as quickly is because the emergency rooms are very busy with all the other stuff in the winter, and they don't have all the staff. And giving this antibody takes hours, and you tie up an emergency room bed all day. So it's not that they don't have the antibody. It's just that until they put it in a place with separate staff where they can assure to give it faster, and I don't know why the hospitals aren't doing that. I'm not in the hospitals, but it's just a time factor and a staffing factor of why they're not using it more. I thought that was pretty interesting. Let's talk about a few more things on COVID before we move on. Sorry I'm taking so much time on this, but obviously we're all interested. People are saying that the studies are saying, like in the JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, that people's symptoms can persist. 1/3 of the people, they can persist for 9 months. It's true. I mean, I felt weak for at least 9 months. I didn't have my energy back. And some people have even worse neurological problems and coordination and balance and sleeping, breathing problems. And some of the people that not only lost their taste or smell, they had altered smells, like they smelled fish or smelling burned odors, and that was annoying. And then CNN quotes from the Journal of Internal Medicine that it takes about 6 months to get back your taste and smell. And, even now, it's been a whole year. I still see patients every day, either in the office or on telehealth, and they're still telling me losing their taste and smell, the whole family's sick. I mean, this is ongoing. We are not out of this. We're slowing down on the second wave. We are no way out of this. We won't be vaccinated until the next fall. Let me tell you, it's not as bad as a year ago, but I know people still dying. I've lost a lot of friends. I know people that are still dying. This is not over yet. Let's see, almost done. The Associated Press looked at the CDC journal, Morbidity Mortality Weekly Report, where they came out with their guidelines for schools. They want everyone back in school, but you have to, the CDC has strict guidelines. Well, I heard on News 12, the head of the unions for teachers in New Jersey, and he actually made some really good points. First of all, he said teachers are not being allowed yet to get the shot. They're not priority for the shot still. So they're being forced to go back to school without that. We know in the past that teachers, where guidelines were not well followed, teachers did get sick. And I recently heard a grand round study from one of the lead authors out in Missouri who looked at school districts around St. Louis. And he said, although it was pretty safe to go back to school overall, there were definite problems in certain places where they had very close contact and they weren't wearing masks. But where there was safe distancing, they did very well. And I know Rhode Island had good studies. So, but this guy, the president of the union, I forget his name, he made a very good point. He said not every school district has good ventilation. So not only are teachers in New Jersey not vaccinated going back to school, but you're going to schools which may or may not have good ventilation. So I thought he made a good point. And last thing I'll say on COVID, and this was tragic, Star Ledger reported the death of Dr. Andrew Brooks. He was the Rutgers scientist that gave us one of the COVID tests, the saliva test. That was bad. All right, so let's move on to updates on government on Obamacare. And there's not too many of them. The Washington Post reports that the president is reopening exchanges, President Biden, to last till May 15. And the president is also rejecting allowing states to buy vaccines. I don't know. I kind of think our public health in the states are doing a great job. And I think our governor could probably do a great job buying his own vaccines. I know the New York governor wants to do it, but I guess President Biden will do what he wants. This is interesting. The health, switching subjects a little, the Health Payer Intelligence looked at a report in JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, saying that as wholesale prices increase, so do patients out of pocket. So you may think that everything's covered by your drug program, like I'm on Medicare myself, but you got to remember not everything's covered. You have deductibles and copays. So as the prices go up, you pay more. Here's something from Reuters. The federal judge is delaying President Trump's favored nation rule. Remember what that was? That says that, like I'm on Medicare, that my Medicare plan doesn't have to pay a higher price than anybody else in the world is paying for that drug. And the reason why he delayed it is a legal technical point. There wasn't enough public comment on it before the executive rule went out. You have to be a lawyer to understand that, but apparently I hope that goes through because that's really unfortunate. I thought President Trump did a nice job with that. Here's something. Reuters said that the U.S. Court of Appeals did uphold President Trump's price disclosure rules where hospitals have to report what they charge. USA Today said the Supreme Court gave states the right to regulate pharmacy benefit managers to lower prices. Remember, again, we've had these discussions many times in the past. The pharmacy benefit managers, there's 3 or 4 major ones that control the traffic of all the drugs you use, all the medicines you use in the country. Insurance companies contract with them, and they give kickbacks to the insurance companies to get lower prices. But what happens is they make the drug companies raise the prices so that when they get a lower price for the insurance company to pay, who pays for these drugs for you, they get part of the kickback. So the higher the price of the drug, the more kickback for them. Unfortunately for us, going in the pharmacy, especially with copays and deductibles, we don't get that kickback the insurance company gets. What we get, if our drugs aren't covered by the insurance company, then we're good. But if they aren't fully covered, we pay the full price on the copay. So nasty stuff. But now states can regulate that, so that was good. And last is interesting. Governor Murphy has finally signed the bill to legalize recreational pot for adults over 21, so we'll see how that goes. All right, let's move on to other healthcare news. As you know, I always like to start with recalls. Not too many, but let's go through them one at a time slowly. Fox Business says that they found Cyclospora, a parasite, makes you very sick with diarrhea. They found it in fresh basil. Basil actually grown in Colombia. Must have gotten contaminated. And when it came over, the American company in Virginia, Virginia-based Shenandoah growers, that made an organic basil clamshell. So just make sure if you buy organic basil clamshell, make sure it wasn't one recalled. For all these recalls, they may not still be there. Just double check when I mention something. It's not something still recalled. The CDC mentioned that listeria was found in queso fresco cheese. USA Today said they found plastic and glass in pepperoni pizza from Hot Pockets Nestle's. Delish News said that there was mold in lava blueberry yogurt, and Highland chocolate milk has hand sanitizer in it. There's a poison Chinese ice cream called Tianzheng Dai Cao Dao. Just make sure it's not still poison. Fox News said that Annie Mac and Cheese is voluntarily removing plastics from their dairy products and containers, so that was good. All right, let's switch subjects a little. CNN, this is very interesting. England found the British Journal of Ophthalmology. You know, macular degeneration is something all of us are afraid of as we get older. We can lose vision. And they found that the pollution in England actually speeded up that process. Not really sure why, but that was concerning. The Hill reported that the freshwater parasite, the amoeba Naegleria, that kills your brain and kills you, found in fresh water. They're finding it a little further north due to global warming. Oh boy. MedPage Today. Oh, this was good. It said there's a new synthetic implant for the knees. Remember the ACL, the anterior cruciate ligament, when it's torn in your knee? I remember when my son tore his, he had a cadaver ligament put into his knee. They actually have synthetic ones now, so that was good news. This next part's very important. Okay, FoodNet is talking about food allergy. I myself have food allergies. For all of us that have food allergies and we know how sick we get, we very carefully read ingredients. We never just go by the label. And that's what FoodNet is saying, is reminding us to read the ingredients. And here's some reasons why. Some allergens may be listed as a spice or flavor. It may say nut-free, but it doesn't tell you there's an allowable amount of nut. It may say gluten-free, but that's only if it's less than 20 parts per million. It may say non-dairy cream or powder, but it may still have milk. Traces of allergens may not be listed. And of course, we always look for cross-contaminated surfaces like wheat products that are mixed in with gluten, or cheeseburgers made where they're making hamburgers, things like that. And of course, we're talking about peanuts and tree nuts, milk, egg, fish, shellfish, wheat, soy, sesame, the usual. Now, this is interesting. Child outgrows milk, usually 80% of the time. Egg, they'll outgrow 60 to 70%, but not only 20. And we know this. I often tell parents, you know, their egg or milk problem, they may be outgrown by 2 or 3 years old, but the nut, you really have to be careful. And this is a scary thing. CNN said that 4.6 million adults have peanut allergy, but they got this in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology. But 800,000 got nut allergy after turning 18. I did not know that. Okay, lastly, let's talk about a few health and safety tips and end with some fun stuff on food. But quickly, let me go through these health and safety tips. Newsweek and Fox Business talk about the bacteria Burkholderia found in dental mouthwash, something called Sunstar Americas, and found in hand soap called Scent Theory. So again, as I said before with the foods, just be sure that the recalled product is removed. This is scary. CBS said that the sport mix pet food, some of it was recalled with toxic mold that, made the animals very sick. And of course, the FDA is still recalling hand sanitizers. And I've reported on this extensively, that are using methyl alcohol rather than ethyl alcohol. Methyl alcohol is poisonous. It can kill you. Newsweek did a fun article on the benefits of air purifiers for pet hair, bacteria, virus, smoke. And I didn't know this, that the air purifier is a mosquito repellent. I did not know that. Purdue University, and this is scary because I have a son in California and a daughter-in-law there. Contaminated water in California where the fires burned through the plastic water pipes. I know around us in Jersey we're always replacing pipes, but here fire burned the pipes and contaminated plastic into the water. And I, of course, was worried about my son and my grandchildren and my daughter-in-law. Right here in New Jersey, Star Ledger, we have a chemical plant that contaminated the water and soil in West Deptford, Gloucester, Salem County, and went all the way to the Delaware River. It's called the Solvay Belgium Company, Solvay. I'm not sure what's going on with that now, but apparently employees had toxins in their blood as well, so hopefully that's being cleaned up. Washington Post, this is important, says we all still eat too much salt. Over the years, I've had this news show with Pat Marucchi for years now, and we've reported many times that we all eat too much salt. The the average American eats 3.5 to 4 grams of salt. We should really be less than 2 grams a day. The feds have new dietary guidelines from the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Health and Human Service, basically cut down our sugars, and under 2-year-olds really don't need to drink any sugars or drinks. We always tell parents, pediatricians, our Academy Pediatric reminds us all the time, kids no longer under a year need to be getting juices, and, we have to be very careful about the amount of sugar they're drinking. Star Ledger, this is good. I like Bridget Cassidy. Star Ledger's our local paper. She's a nutritionist. She comes up with fun articles. Here she warns of the danger in using raw elderberry. I did not know this. It's toxic. It has to be, if you're going to do it yourself, you got to cook it, or just simply buy a processed elderberry product. Now, here's something else I didn't know. Bridget reminds us to check with your doctor because the elderberry may interact with drugs you're on for diabetes, cancer, immunosuppression, laxatives, diuretics. I did not know that. I'll try to remember that. Okay, let's end with a few fun things. I love the Food Network for fun stuff. This will just take a minute. Chickpeas are good proteins, garbanzo beans. So we look at falafel, chickpea stew, cauliflower chickpea flatbread, vegan chickpea crab cake, chickpea crust pizza, and 6 dairy-free breakfast treats. I'm allergic to dairy and gluten, so I'm always looking for stuff. Listen to these: acai puree and berry, prosciutto egg cups, apple cinnamon oatmeal, kale and tomato eggs benedict, green smoothies, and pumpkin waffles. Okay, that wraps it up. As always, I enjoy being with you. Of course, we're still doing radio, but maybe after the COVID, we'll be back live on TV. I enjoy talking to you every month. I enjoy seeing your comments. Please keep them coming. Stay safe, stay sound, stay safe, stay happy, and enjoy the spring and hopefully soon the end of the COVID. You all take care.
Courageous doctors, pioneers and heroes. Executive producers Barry S. Prystowsky, MD. And Patrick M. Marucki. Post-production Patrick M. Marucki, makeup by Lisa McAllister, salon Jimmy Gerards. Music provided by Video Blocks. Special thanks to American Medical Association and New England Journal of Medicine. Visit us on the internet at courageousdoctors.com.